You mentioned in the just a minute ago that your other guitar got stolen. That's awful. But you got two now, right?
Hmm.
Okay. You said one right after the Air Force. Now, how long were you in the Air Force? What was your rank? Who'd you listen to back then?
Well, I was active duty with the U.S. Air Force from 1965 to 1969. And of course, I'm listening to anybody I could. When I went overseas, this is a good story to tell here. Went to Southeast Asia in Thailand. And of course, you're away from home a year, and they had some different hobby shops, and one of them was a music hobby shop. And you'd have reel to reel recorders. You could check out reel to reel tapes, make copies of them. And I checked out a tape on a jazz guitar player named Howard Roberts. And I tell you, that helped get me through one year Southeast Asia. I so loved his playing, great jazz guitar player, Howard Roberts, and I listened to it over and over and over again. One of my all-time favorites was Howard Roberts. I will mention this too. An influence on me, though I met him two or three times, certainly never played with him, was a great jazz guitar player named Jimmy Weibel. And Jimmy Weibel came up through Western Swing. I think he's from Port Arthur. He played in Western Swing bands here in Houston, Dickie Jones band, different ones. Went with Bob Wills. A long time he and Cameron Hill, twin guitars. He played with Spade Cooley, but eventually ended up just playing jazz. Played with Red Norvo and Benny Goodman and all those guys. And I'd always heard about Jimmy Weibel. Got to meet him two or three times. Just a great gentleman, but just a phenomenal player. And so there's that those influences were always there. And I was always influenced, obviously, like most musicians, by people that played better than you do. And I'll never play as good as a Howard Roberts or Jimmy Weibel, but that's not going to stop me from playing. I'm going to play as good as I can, and that's what Clyde taught me. Always play as good as you can. Another thing that Paul Buskirk said: whatever song you play, it doesn't matter if you like the song or not. You play it the best you can. You don't ever flub a song off. You play it the best you can, or don't try to play it.
What year were you in the Air Force, or what years did you serve?
1965 to 1969, and right after I got out in '69, I married your mom.
And your dad died, I guess, before you joined the Air Force. What
Yeah,
year?
he
1964.
yeah he died June of 1964, a month shy of his 70th birthday.
Now, did you get to play with your dad at all on the bandstand? Not much.
Never,
No.
no, not on bandstand. Always around the house. He'd give up bandstand playing and all that by the time I was little, and he just didn't have the strength and all to do it. But certainly, I mean, played with him a lot, just not on a bandstand.
What? How long did Clyde play with your dad?
Until Daddy quit playing in bands, probably about from time Clyde was 13 to Clyde was probably about 17, 18.
Now, Clyde went on to play in other bands. What were some of the bands he played in? I know you're wearing one of the shirts that you got.
Well, it's River Road Boys. That's the band he and Tommy Hauser founded. But he played with a lot of bands back then. Cliff Bruner, he played with Moon Mullican. A lot of different groups in Houston. Jerry Irby's group. He worked with a lot of different people that would come through town. Hank Williams. I mean, George Jones, you name it. Anybody coming through Houston, he played with them. He played all the time. I mean, he played in bands. The big studio in Houston at that time was called Gold Star, later, now still around today, called Sugar Hill. Clyde was like one of the A-team musicians, one of the first calls that they would get, because he played a lot of instruments. He could come in, he could play mandolin, fiddle, he could play guitar, he could play bass. Upright's what he learned to play on. He could play drums, play piano. So he played in so many different bands. I can't even name them all. I got a whole list of he made at one time musicians he's worked with. But about 71, he formed the River Road Boys, and from then on, that was his band, which I played with in a number of years, and a lot of good musicians in that band.
Yeah, the River Road Boys you played in for a while, and I noticed the last time we were recording, you were wearing a baseball cap that had a tribute to Shelly Lee Alley, and talk a little bit about the tribute that we used to have there for him, and how obviously Clyde was the key component to all of it. That's why the whole thing moved forward, was all because of him, and it was about Shelly, but also some of the musicians who performed in there, and then maybe the time where Clyde couldn't perform, but as we say, the show must go on, and we still did the show. So if you talk a little bit about that.
Actually the idea of it came from Eddie Russell. Eddie Russell lived in Columbus at that time, and very big in music, and big Jimmy Rogers fan. And he began to talk to a guy named Tex Rogers, who was the publisher of the newspaper at the time. Be great because my dad's from Colorado County, have some kind of show. So we met, Clyde and I met with them. And anyway, got it rolling. They had the first one at the Stafford Opera House there in Columbus. And the very first show, we had, of course, the River Road Boys on it. And then we had Van Williams, who was a great Jimmy Rogers singer. He could sing just like Jimmy, play guitar with it like him. Van was totally blind. He was in World War II, a Japanese sniper bullet hit him in the head, and he lost his eyesight. But he could sing just like Jimmy, played just like Jimmy, knew all Jimmy's songs. And then Jimmy Rogers' grandson, Jimmy Dale Court, was there, and he sang on it. But from that, everybody said, this is a great show, let's keep it going. And so we started bringing different musicians in on the shows that we had, different, like fiddle players. Bobby Boatwright, I think, was in the second one, George Upmore. We had Billy Briggs on one of them, Doc Lewis on piano, who played with Bob Wills, a bunch of them. And then the third year was when Johnny Gimbel joined us in it. And he was on almost all the shows after that. We had Johnny Gimbel, Leon Roush from Texas Playboys. And then we brought in some of the older guys that had played with my dad. For instance, Cliff Bruner, Pappy Self, we had him on there. Floyd Tillman, we had him on some shows. I think the last one we did at Stafford Opera House, we had Dean McKinney Moore. She and her sister, Evelyn, sang with Bob Wills years ago, and then she married Tiny Moore, also a Bob Wills musician. She was actually on the last one we did there. And I think we did about 6 of them there. And then we did one in LaGrange, and we did 2 in Huntsville. And then the very last one we did was in Magnolia at the Texas Opera House, which Clyde's son Joel was running at the time. And so that was our 10th one. So we did 10 of them, and I know Clyde was very proud of them because they were very professionally done, and a lot of people came to them. I've heard people say they came, this first time they ever saw Floyd Tillman, for instance, or Cliff Bruner, and these are legends, okay, in Western swing music. Cliff Bruner, Floyd Tillman. There's others we could have gotten, but we didn't. And one of them, Jimmy Davis, who was the governor of Louisiana. Daddy and him were friends. They record each other's songs. We never got him. We could have got Ted Daffin. We didn't get Ted. Wish we'd have got him. We recorded with my dad a lot. But those were great shows. Some of them are still on YouTube. If anybody wants to pull them up, you can see them right there.
Yeah, and also the ShellyLeeAlley.com site, because there's a lot of videos and pictures and sheet music if anybody wants to do those songs.
Yeah, that's a great website and I'll give you the plug. Chad maintains that, puts it all together. ShellyLeeAlley.com, and the history of it's there.